Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Steve Gallucci, Global Leader of the CFO Program at Deloitte, to discuss key findings of the third quarter CFO Signals Report, which tracks what North America's top finance executives are thinking and what they're actually doing about it. Steve, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Pleasure to be here, Jill.
All right, and give us a high-level overview of CFO Signals. Who does it track? What regions and industries is Deloitte looking at?
Sure. So starting with the industries, we look across all of our industries and sectors. Regionally, it is a North American survey. It polls CFOs from companies, primarily public companies, primarily billion-dollar plus, primarily in the U.S., but it does cover both Mexico and Canada also, too.
Let's take a look at the key findings, starting with perceptions and how CFOs are assessing regional economies, markets, and of course, risk.
Sure. So when we looked at our survey, or looked at the data from the survey this particular quarter, we saw some perceptions of North America that rose slightly. What we also found is that when you looked across the globe, it was really the first time we saw that CFOs' perceptions of the China economy actually outpaced what their perceptions of the North American economy was. That being said, CFOs did indicate that they felt like the recovery would take a bit longer than when we polled them in the prior quarter.
How about sentiment regarding their own businesses and expectations for next year?
So it was mixed, as you would well imagine. There were some sectors that saw that their capacity or their production or output would get back to pre-pandemic levels by the end of this year. That was about 43% or so. But the large majority of our CFOs saw that production would probably not get past 75% capacity until well into 2021.
Now, this is what I thought is interesting, how their roles have evolved since COVID-19 and some of the additional responsibilities that they've taken on. What were some of the common themes that you saw?
Well, in this particular quarter, we saw a pivot back towards revenue growth. In the prior quarter, which was, as you can well imagine, was obviously right in the throes of the initial impact of the pandemic, there was much more of a focus on cost controls, which was the first time we ever saw that. And we were interested in this particular quarter as to whether or not that would be prolonged. We did see a bounce back to focus on revenue growth. And again, mixed bag. When you looked across sectors, there were certain sectors who were a little more bullish on their revenue growth and some not so.
What's most worrisome risks for the remainder of 2020?
Well, I think the not surprising, the most worrisome risk really is COVID-19 and the impact it will have on the overall economy. Most often cited during the pandemic was CFOs that were concerned about the economic impact that future shutdowns would have. Certainly there was some concern, obviously, about the political turmoil that's happening, not only just in the U.S., but across the globe. So, but the primary uncertainty was certainly around the impact of COVID-19 and the impact it would have on the particular sector and their customer base.
And Steve, finally, as CFOs look ahead, what are some of the COVID-19 strategy shifts they see?
Well, you've seen a shift, certainly, when we're looking from a workforce perspective into looking at alternative talent pools, seeing that the remote workforce, certainly the white-collar remote workforce, is seeing benefits. There was a significant investment or continued investment in IT, particularly those technologies that allowed companies to interface with customers on a digital basis. You also saw companies that were looking at capital spending and taking advantage of the low rate environment to see what they could do with their capital plans going forward to potentially expedite those.
All right, Steve, thanks for joining us on Trade Talks.
Pleasure, Jill. Thank you.
And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.